I'm going to answer some more of your questions about hypertonic pelvic floor. If you hear weird noises in the background, we're in my garage and my husband's working out over there. He's just being silly. You want to say hi? No, okay. He doesn't want to say hi. Never mind. All right, first question coming up next. Someone asked in my DMs about the difference between stretching, using a ball to do like self-myofascial release, and using a foam roller. This is kind of a hefty question. So what we know about stretching, foam rolling, manual therapy, trigger point release, whatever you want to call it, what we know is that we're not actually making a huge change in the tissues themselves. What we are doing, oh my god, giant bug. What we are doing is changing, he's laughing at me. Oh god. What we are doing is changing your nervous system's response to pressure, to stretch, and things like that. So static stretching of a muscle is not going to lengthen a muscle. I'll talk more about this. Okay, what we are doing is, so again, strengthening or lengthening a muscle by stretching it. We're not actually truly lengthening the muscle. We are making it so that our nervous system doesn't send us a warning signal that we're approaching the point where the muscle is getting overstretched, right? So that's what a stretch sensation is a warning from our body saying, hey, well, don't go too farther than that, because if you go farther than that, you're going to tear something or you're going to cause damage to your body. When in reality, our muscles are actually super flexible and our fascia can move and shift, and a lot of times shortness of a muscle is actually just some tissue stiffness and then nervous system input causing stiffness. So that's why I much prefer doing something like foam rolling or active stretching. I'll give you an example. Someone asked me yesterday, I was answering some of these questions, and I said that I have hypermobility in my knees and my hips, and my hamstrings feel really tight to me. And if you were to watch me hinge forward or stretch my hamstrings, they're going to look really tight. But they're not. They're just holding on for dear life because I have laxity in other areas. But I don't hang out and just statically stretch my hamstrings. I don't do it. It doesn't benefit me. I end up moving from somewhere that I don't want to be moving. Instead, the way that I stretch my hamstrings is doing deadlifts, hip hinges, things that I'm actively lengthening my hamstrings while I'm strengthening them. You're going to get way more benefit because you're changing your nervous system's input and showing your muscles and showing your body, hey, I can go into this new length safely because I'm controlling it. I have strength here. I have control in this motion. So that's way better. So that's my thought on static stretching. Foam rolling, a lot of people purport that it changes our fascia and breaks apart adhesions and stuff. There's no evidence to show that it does that. It doesn't do that. It, again, changes our nervous system input. It can also increase blood flow. It has been shown to reduce the risk of injury when done before athletic performances and stuff like that. Whereas static stretching, like holding a prolonged stretch, has actually been shown to do the opposite. Increase risk of injury if it's done before an athletic event. Dynamic stretching, on the other hand, like I said, like lengthening the hamstrings during an actual movement, is going to reduce the risk of injury. So that's why in my program, Pop Principles, we're always going to foam roll and do some dynamic workout stuff in the beginning. Okay, so using a massage ball, like a lacrosse ball or something like that, to do a sustained trigger point release is a little bit different of the science here. So when I have someone do a trigger point release with a ball, I don't tell them to rub until it gets better. That's actually just going to be more painful and create more guarding and more contraction in that muscle. So what I much prefer is if someone's doing, let's say the TFL, the front of the hip, that area right on the front that can get really tight, I want them to apply pressure into the ball at a particular spot in that muscle and sit there and wait and relax and breathe and let go. And then they can go to a new spot. Same thing. Relax, breathe, let it go. And there's a theory behind trigger point release work. So essentially, this is my understanding of it from what I learned in school. So we don't have concrete evidence to explain how trigger points form and why they form. We do know that it's a combination of some sort of disruption in the nervous system in that area, some sort of either like oxygen deprivation to those tissues, particularly to the cells, or like a buildup of waste, cellular waste. But trigger points are happening at a cellular level. So we're talking like physiology, down to the nitty-gritty of the cellular structure of the muscles and fascia. And the way that trigger points are released, dry needling can be extremely helpful. For those of you who have access to dry needling, it's illegal in California. Trigger point injections are another thing, so it's usually a mixture of a lidocaine or marcaine with a corticosteroid to reduce inflammation. Usually I see temporary relief with those. The classic treatment for trigger points is a sustained hold of pressure on that trigger point for 90 to 120 seconds, sometimes longer than that if needed, until you feel a palpable change in the tissue. So if your hands are not well, if you don't have the sensation for that, so like PTs, we touch hundreds, thousands of human bodies, like we've developed this sense in our fingers, but if you're doing this on yourself, if you're doing pelvic floor trigger point release internally, externally, if you're doing it on other muscles, if you are having pain with that trigger point, a sign that it's let go is reduction in pain. Or if you're getting referral to another area, so sometimes the pelvic floor can refer to the hip or the abdomen or the back. If that all of a sudden goes away, that's another sign that you've held it long enough. What else? Sometimes you'll actually feel the muscle let go, but regardless, you want to hold sustained pressure on it until something changes. I think another thing that's important to note with trigger point release work is that it shouldn't be excruciating. It should be like no more than a 5 out of 10 pain, because if it's more than that, your body is going to be contracting against the external pressure, kind of defeating the purpose of getting that trigger point to calm down. If you're not dealing with tension symptoms, then strengthen the out of your pelvic floor. Just be cautious that if symptoms of tension start to arise, make sure that you feel equipped to handle those. Make sure that you know how to do breathing exercises to relax the pelvic floor. Stretches, internal release if needed, or external release. But start strengthening. If you feel like you're loose and your strength is good, but like everything feels loose, maybe you just need to do more strengthening of everything, not just Kegels, like full body stuff. I often see that general pelvic floor strength and tone improves as hip, lower body, abdominal strength all improves. So give yourself some time, but keep working on it. Number 1, figure out why you have tension. So go back to my recent post with the graphic of all the reasons why tension happens and identify 2 or 3 of the biggest triggers that you think are causing your tension, and then come up with strategies with your PT or your behavioral therapist or your doctor to manage those. So many of us are going to tick so many of those boxes on that tension chart, and it's overwhelming to try to address all of them. You can't do it. I can't do it. You can't do it. It's not feasible. So pick the ones that you think are the biggest and work from there. It would be way too long of me to break down all of those and what to do about pelvic floor tension, but some of the biggest things you can be doing in your day-to-day life is stop clenching your butt, stop sucking your stomach in, learn how to breathe properly and relax the pelvic floor, posture, and then strengthen the rest of your body. I'm guessing this one is about like clenching your pelvic floor, clenching your butt, sucking in your stomach, how to break the habit. This one's really tough. So I think, again, you need to identify the root cause, because if you're just attacking the symptoms, you're not getting to the root cause of why it's happening, you're not going to get anywhere. So why are you clenching? Is it because you're weak as and you need to strengthen and your body's like holding on because it's afraid to let go because you're weak? Is it mental because you think that your organs are going to fall out, so you're clenching because you don't like the sensation of the bulge being there? Is it society telling you that you should have a flat stomach and you're sucking in all the time to fit into your jeans that maybe you should size up on just for your own comfort? Is it, trauma related? There's so many reasons why, but you need to figure out what the cause is and then work on strategies from there. Pelvic floor muscle tension is not going to make prolapse worse. It's not going to change pressure in your thoracic or abdominal cavities very much. But if you are an abdominal clencher, that definitely can. And some people are doing both, tensing the pelvic floor, tensing the abdomen. Those are definitely things you want to work on. But pelvic floor muscle tension itself is not going to worsen the grade of a prolapse. It may make your symptoms worse, but it's not going to worsen the grade. The best way to know if you have pelvic floor tension is to get examined by a pelvic floor therapist. But if you want to test on yourself, check out the hypertonic pelvic floor highlight that I have. I've got a lot of information on symptoms there of how it presents and how to manage it. So if you have a lot of the symptoms of it, it might be that you have pelvic floor tension. You could also palpate and touch your pelvic floor externally or internally, and if you have pain, it's likely that there's tension there. Absolutely, they do. So for example, I have a patient right now who has prolapse and an avulsion. So this individual has been increasing some strengthening lately and doing some more weighted squats and deadlifts and things like that. And, there's a little kitty outside. Cute. I'm back. All right. And never dealt with tension before. Well, like a little bit when doing too many Kegels early on and stuff like that. But so this person has a right-sided avulsion, and that means the deep layer of the pelvic floor muscles are compromised, and so her superficial muscles are developing tension, specifically on that side. So we're working on a lot of strategies to reduce that. I think we've made some good progress, and we've still got some room to grow there, but yes, this does happen. It sounds like you need to learn how to move your body in a way that you are not clenching your pelvic floor, or finding exercises that are not glute-centric or abdominal-centric for now, and doing other body exercises. What I find is very common with people who have prolapse is that when they're doing exercises, their pelvic floor, they engage it at one point when they're doing an exertional activity, and then it just stays on. And it never lets go for the entire 20-30 minutes that they're exercising. And so you might need to go very, very slowly at first. Very slowly, and in between every rep, let go.